So we are kind of in the midst of our thrashing for the week, and so I was going to go over a couple of things on some of Ziegler stuff, where we're at with that, and yeah, so pretty much we have some of his tubing came for his exhaust, and obviously with it being as large of a frame turbo as it is, we're not going to use a 5-inch stack like we typically do with 90% of everything else we do. So this is 6-inch, and it's quite large, so that is going to be fun, something we don't typically do a bunch of. So a lot of this stuff came, I think there is some stuff, I have some pieces cut for a hot pipe. I've been trying to finish up a lot on the inside as far as steering column goes. That is pedal system, getting brake pedal mounted, gas pedal mounted, and his logger mounted, trying to figure just out and get everything kind of laid out so everything can kind of just go together really easy. So that is kind of where we're at with that. The mid plate is done, that is in the truck, the turbo is hung. Yeah, so pretty much we ended up using a Maven Performance. They hooked us up with a pretty cool turbo drain mount, so you can actually mount a tube, or cope a tube to the drain, and that acts as your turbo brace. And with this thing being like 90 some pounds, it's kind of a necessity to have it mounted, sturdy and strong. So that's kind of the thought process on that. Waiting on an intercooler still and some other odds and end pieces, but other than that, I think we have majority of everything here. Just need the time and to finish it. So we are gonna still chug along on it and hopefully have it done here. I don't even know when, to be honest with you, but it is coming along. So stay tuned. I know we have a lot of other cool stuff, and it is going to make some badass noises on the dyno, and yeah, it's gonna be a fun one.
That we actually did everything. It went out.
Trying to finish up the wastegate pipes today, and then we can't really cut everything until obviously the front clip is on, and that's kind of what we're getting ready to tackle next. Had to get some fiberglass stuff here and whatnot to get some of that stuff moving in. And then hopefully we can, I think beginning of the week, we'll probably start on the logger and a lot of the finish up details in the cab, because mostly everything out here will be majority wrapped up. Obviously we still have a lot. So yeah, just chugging along with it.
All right, we're getting ready to work on the front clip here on Ziegler's truck. The first thing we need to do is we need to get a structure built in the front end of the truck to support the whole front end of the clip. With that structure, it will have a bar running low across the bottom, kind of down in the bumper area, and that bar will slide into these little C-mounts. This is an adjustable front clip mount kit that we get from Tim McCamus. So this is made to sit on your frame rail or wherever you need to set it, I guess. And then there's some small adjustments in here. So being it's really hard to hold this front clip up and put it perfectly in position when you're building everything, it's really nice that we can have a little bit of adjustment here. So the first thing to do is to get that whole front mount structure put in place. These will probably end up getting trimmed some. It is nice to leave some extra length here so that you can set the clip down and then slide it into place. So the longer you can leave this, the nicer it is. But this really probably has too much length to it the way it is currently. These little plates here, these will get fiberglassed into the inside of the front clip, and then that gives us something to weld our structure onto. And then after the front end is all supported, well, first we'll need to trim this to fit the windshield. This profile should be close to the windshield, but the main part of the cowl here isn't trimmed, so that'll take a good bit of trial and error just to get that all fit just right. So once it's back in place, then we're going to need to figure out these little guys behind the fender are really flimsy, so we need to build some support structure for that, and probably use some quarter turns I think we're going to try to make to where we just have 2 quarter turns here on the side, and we're kind of hoping that we can make a support structure for this to sit on without having to put fasteners up on top of the hood. So some of that's going to be a little bit of trial and error and see how it goes, but that's kind of the plan currently. Watched a guy do this one time, and then I bought some stuff on Amazon. I'm practically a fiberglass professional. I was going to do more of a traditional bar across the front and then run supports up, but the more I looked at it, the more this just made sense. This is what kind of like what we had done on the Pro Street truck, so this is pretty simple. Just make a hoop that matches the contour of the hood up there, and then I'm just going to cut strips of glass, and I'm just going to glass that hoop in pretty much, you know, all the way around. So that should make a really strong structure for us to fasten to. And then we're gonna have little returns here that catch those C-clips on the frame of the truck. So fairly simple front end design. The back end, we need to bend some tube up to fit the contour of everything, and that'll take a little bit more time. But we got the cowl and the back side of everything scribed and fit to the truck, so pretty happy with how that all fits. And now we just got to make it all mount up.
A little bit of an overview. So we pretty much, with no firewall, I just made a little panel to hold all of his electronics. The truck does unfortunately not have a Bosch on it. Maybe eventually we can talk him into that. But for the time being, we are going to do, it's still a CM849 ECM Maximizer 5 for all the nitrous controller and all that stuff. Trans wise, we have one of our lemur harnesses, which is pretty much the standalone style. And it'll throw an air shifter, so he's got a PPE shifter that the Anteater and everything will control. Motion Raceworks kind of came on, or at least ordered some stuff through them as far as some sensor blocks. They made some really nice stuff, so try to just tidy everything up. But yeah, for data logging stuff, we went with a AEM CD7, so that pretty much, we've used them on a couple trucks that we've done, and they work really well. It's kind of a little bit more budget friendly than a Bosch. Obviously it doesn't have the capabilities of a Bosch, but still good for all your data and everything, you know, at the drag strip and stuff. Race grade thermocoupler module, so that'll pretty much take care of like intake air temps, individual port EGTs, and then we have, as far as sensor wise, is like what we'll see on the AEM log comparing to the log, you know, through our V2 for the EFI through the OBD. We have, yeah, trans line pressure, fuel pressure, lift pump pressure, I should say, nitrous pressure, before stage and after, or before and after intercooler boost pressures, drive pressure, and I think we have an in-between stage boost on the in-between stage pipe between turbos. Just some stuff, really just to see how everything's acting together, because the turbo sizing is a little larger and a little bit different than what we typically have done in the past. So this is, yeah, this is gonna hopefully contain everything and make everything work happy, and should be a good little ripper after it. So yeah, I know sensor connection, they have really good EGT probes. It's an open tip filament. There's some people run a closed tip filament. Just with a closed tip, they're a little bit slower, slower reacting. So in a log, you'll see it come on and, you know, be 500 degrees and all, and then it's not as fast responding as an open tip filament. So we always run open tips in that. But yeah, that's pretty much about it. We're gonna do hard lines to all of our pressure sensors, just tidy stuff up so we don't have wires running all over the engine and stuff. Makes the main majority big part of the harness out of the AEM a lot smaller and shorter. So that's gonna obviously save a lot of time, and wiring purposes, it's a little bit easier to diagnose if there's anything ever wrong with it. So we are on about day 2 or 3 of wiring Justin's truck, or well, I guess day 1.5, kind of depends how you look at it. So pretty much with the AEM, you have to build your own harness, obviously. So pretty much what we're doing right now is going through, and I have like all of my sensors written down. So I have 8 sensors total that I'm reading off the AEM. So pretty much what that entails is each sensor has to have its own 5-volt reference and ground signal. So there's a couple different pins you can pull from it. So like for this, I'm using a twisted like can set of wire. It's just 22 gauge, mil-spec wiring. So pretty much it's a lot higher quality wire. It actually bends and it kind of holds its shape a little bit better when you're making a harness. It's a little bit more oil and fluid, like resistant proof, whatever you want to say it. And so yeah, pretty much just trying to finish all this, get the main harness. I'll get it majority all loomed up out here, and then I'll pretty much take it in the truck and final fit it. There's 4 sensors that are on one sensor block, and those are pretty much all turbo related, at least like 2 boost sensors, nitrous pressure and drive pressure. So those 4 sensors have its own kind of separate harness, and then there's one section of the harness that'll go down with a bulkhead connector through the floor to the line pressure, trans temp. There's gonna be a coolant temp down in there because he has a radiator in the back, and we also have a fuel pressure. So we'll have kind of like a bulkhead connector fitting down there. So pretty much just, it's kind of, all of this is more or less just to make it really easy to work on. If there is a problem with the sensor or whatnot, it's easy to diagnose, and there's no, you don't have to cut and unloom a whole harness. Just kind of makes it a little bit easier for the person that's gonna be working on it. My 1, 2, 3 blocks, baby, they can just, use for each sensor has its own little hole. So, little welder trick for wiring.
This is what happens when you have a stainless braided brake line and you have your weld ground on the chassis, and you're doing some welding on the axle, and your control arms have Delrin bushing, so therefore they're not a great ground. So the ground picks up the easiest path, which is the brake line, and it cooks all of the plastic out of the brake line and deems it very unfunctional. So it's getting new brake lines. We're actually gonna change out the shocks today too. These were just some AFCO shocks that we had here that we used for mock-up stuff, and we've got the new Menskers here now, so we're gonna put those on today.
So we had some questions about as far as what a mid plate more or less does. So with a mid plate, as you can see here, this solid mounts the engine. So with the turbos and everything, and with it just being more of a race application truck, the factory engine mounts have rubber in them, so the engine moves left and right, when makes power and whatnot. So this just holds the whole engine in place, ties it to the frame rails. And so with this, I made it to where it just has a 4-volt flange on each side, so you can pull it out. So when you pull the trans out, the engine and everything doesn't come back like it typically does when you take it out of a stock truck. So it's got 2 little hold-in bolts for it that just holds it to the adapter plate, and then obviously you need a little bit longer dowel pin with it. So that's all kind of stuff we made in-house. And yeah, so we're pretty much all just trying to get the trans wrapped up so I can finish running wiring and stuff for it, for some of the pressure sensors and whatnot, and got to finish up some coolant lines and some other stuff like that for it. But other than that, pretty much this hopefully should be its final week, just wrapping up everything. So we have a lot of odds and ends, small stuff to finish. And yeah, and from here you can also see, so with rack and pinion steering, this is now your track bar. So pretty much instead of having your track bar out front like a typical truck does, now that the rack's in front of it and you have your steering shaft to your manual rack, well, this is what holds the axle from it moving side to side. So you come down here, and this is obviously good bracing off of the control arm brackets. So it's just there to there, and it's all removable too, so you can take it out if you need to swap an axle or anything. So just to give a little idea of something else we're doing on Justin's truck. So this is just some 1.5 inch aluminum tubing. So pretty much he's gonna have a like Ron Davis style small radiator in the bed with a water pump back there, or with his electric water pump on the radiator itself. So from going from the engine all the way back here, instead of having to, so when you run a lot of lines back through here, you'll get a lot of chafing on the line themselves, because when you get a line that has, even if it has a good coating like we use XRP stuff, it'll chafe on the edge, if it's metal or whatever, and it's part of nature, on a racing truck that you're, or race application vehicle in any sense. Lines will chafe if you have a bunch of big lines, like for a radiator you can either run -16 or -20. So we're putting 2 6-foot tube sections in of this aluminum tubing, so we can have shorter lines, and then the length of the truck underneath of here, it's actual metal, so it's not, you can kind of tuck it a little bit better, and there's not just lines kind of routing all the way back through here. So just kind of a little a little trick tip, something kind of different that we do. So this is just they'll end up going kind of here. They're not mounted by any means yet, but they'll pretty much just get welded together and have 2 little kicks up at the top, and that's where you'll connect your short lines to and go on your way. The realest thing you'll ever see. Because guess what? He really isn't. So we have Justin's truck finally getting ready to get strapped down to the dyno for today. So we had some, last couple weeks have been pretty busy here on the shop side of stuff, so we've kind of been not necessarily slacking, but at the same time trying to push to get it done, and just with everything going on, it's taking a little bit more time than expected. So went to do initial first startup about last week, and ended up having a brand new 5-gallon pail of fuel that Justin had given us, and ended up somehow in the bucket, it just got water in it. So pretty much stuff happens, not a best case scenario type deal, so had to send the fuel system off, wanted to get it checked out, UCC, because obviously we want to come with a strong runner and make sure everything's right with it. So got everything back on, first startup, Levon finishing, putting the tune file together, and pretty much the layout for the AEM side of stuff. We have some nitrous stuff to finish up. We wanted to try a couple different things with the Maximizer as far as running multiple kits. So instead of usually running 2, we're actually having 4 kits controlled by the Maximizer now. Had a small leak from the rack, because we went to rack pinion steering. So small things, but with a fresh build, you're always going to have a small issue or 2 along the road. So trying to get some of that stuff finished up today so we can get it hooked on the dyno and hopefully make some good noises, put some good numbers down, and come off with a good running truck so we can go testing with it. So as I was saying with the Maximizer, going with the Maximizer, you have 2 main outputs to run 2 kits of nitrous. If you want 2 separate solenoids, obviously you have to run a separate relay with each solenoid. That's just rule of thumb with nitrous stuff. So our lovely friend Ryan Milliken, which is just such a ball of joy every time everybody talks to him, got us hooked up with a relay box. So this actually has 4 relays built into one. So pretty much it just kind of condenses everything and makes life a little bit easier. And with adding 2 extra solenoids on top of that, Nitrous Express has you add these solenoid drivers. So pretty much this allows you to add kit 3 and kit 4 worth of nitrous in the system, and lets you tune it in the Maximizer 5 software. So that's kind of a couple different things that we've changed with this Maximizer comparing to other ones we've done. So this will kind of give Justin a good start and good ability to nitrous tune with the thing. So yeah.
Okay, we got Ziegler's truck on the dyno. This is an exciting day. It's been a long process on getting this project done. If you can take a look at this build, it is very labor intensive, very detailed. Cody did a great job getting everything fabricated, wired in. Now it's the time that we get everything dialed in, get it ready to turn back over to Justin so he can get all his sled pulling stuff set up. and ready for UCC and actual competition. So we just made 2 baseline runs, got some of the rail surge figured out, did 900 microseconds, did 1316 horsepower, and 1100 microseconds did 1582 horsepower. We're just kind of creeping our way up. The turbos are working amazing. That was like 94 pounds of boost, 90 pounds of drive, 1500 degrees EGTs. The engine's very happy when you feed it with that much nice, cool, crisp air. So we're going to keep turning the power up and see what kind of noises we can make today. All right, Chris Gelbaugh, your days of #1 are officially over. As Justin just took top spot, somebody's gonna have to do something about Ziegler running #1, because he just did 2295 and 0.8 2050 torque, just because I did not want to tear it up for UCC, so we brought nitrous in late, and it made peak power at like 5200 RPM, and it was still going up. So if we bring the nitrous in sooner, the torque number would be much higher, but we'll save that for UCC.
I'm sorry, Derek, you still suck. Short man.
Okay, we got Ziegler's truck wrapped up on the dyno, and it is ready for UCC action. We did 2295 with some conservative jets, but we wanted to turn all 4 nitrous kits on just to make sure it doesn't pop any fuses, trip any relays, and hopefully avoid any last-minute scrambles on the dyno at UCC. So definitely a ripper. That was 1600 microseconds and 4 small kits. Small, I don't know, depends on what you call small, but like 90 to 110 jets, you know, we can jet everything up. But I guess we'll see what happens at UCC. The dyno is such a game because you have to be able to accelerate the dyno quickly, and when it goes through the run so fast, it takes a long time to get the boost to max boost. And a big setup like this takes a little bit more time to get there. Nitrous accelerates all that, so we'll probably have to bring the nitrous in probably 1000 RPM sooner at UCC, but that's going to give us our big torque number that we need to score what we need to score to do well in the challenge. So Cody's got some stuff to finish up to get the cage certified and a couple little wiring things here and there, and then we plan to go testing with this truck later this week, and then it's ready to go. Turn back over to Justin. He's going to take some of this stuff back apart, do some painting, and get this thing ready for the show. He's got a bunch of finishing touches to put on it and get some, get some experience behind the wheel, make sure he's familiar with all the systems, and then he is ready to go. Come to UCC ODR event May 21st, 23rd to see this truck in action. It is a monster, and we can't wait to see it in action there.